Thank you, CNN, for clearing all this up for us yesterday. According to a headline on CNN yesterday, no classified documents were found at Joe Biden's Delaware vacation home after that 3.5-hour search by the FBI yesterday. What was not mentioned was that the president and his wife were at this same beach house 10 days ago, knowing full well that a raid was possible. You think there might be a possibility that they were looking in the closets or maybe the garage for anything marked top secret?
It's very possible.
I think maybe. For more on all this, let's welcome in the rest of our team. Reporter for the Daily Caller, host of The Facts, Brianna Lyman is here, and Project 21 National Advisory Board member and radio host Christopher Arps is here. Brianna, it was coincidental. The president did not visit his beach house last January. You know, Rehoboth Beach is beautiful in July, not so much in January, but they decided to go 10 days ago. What do you think they were doing out there?
That's a great question. I'm sure Joe Biden was just checking out his basement because he has not been in the public eye since this whole document scandal has erupted. And I know everybody's looking forward to next week, hoping that he will address this at the State of the Union because it is a concern. But, you know, yesterday's FBI raid, it wasn't even a raid. You know, they didn't get the same treatment that Donald Trump got. And the reason that the White House would say that it didn't happen is because Joe Biden is cooperating. He's a good guy, right? But the reason that people are so upset about this is because, well, they may say they're cooperating. They're cooperating with their own departments, people that were appointed by Biden, but they're not cooperating with the media and the American public to give us the truth and transparency.
Yeah, Brianna, you're so right. Chris, they spent about 3.5 hours there, very different than the amount of time they spent at former President Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago. But again, you know, the White House trying to say, you know, we're telling you everything, or if you have a question, go to the council. And so yesterday, listen to what Ian Sams had to say about them being transparent.
I think we've been pretty transparent from the very beginning with providing information as it occurs throughout this process. You know, we have released probably thousands of words of statements from the president's personal attorney and the White House counsel's office about the process that has been undertaken here.
All right, a couple things. I think we've been pretty transparent, and I think we've released all of this information to you. I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, first of all, I think Mr. Sams doing a lot of these press conferences is one of the first marks of Jeffrey Zients, new chief of staff's implant on this administration. If Jean-Pierre wasn't checked a couple of boxes of being an African-American and lesbian, I think she would have been gone. And then what we've been hearing that at the beginning of this scandal is that the Biden administration's lawyers were turning over these documents, trying to be transparent, and that they felt, and they even leaked this, they felt if they turned these documents in themselves, then the Justice Department would go easy on them and could possibly make this go away. We've seen that that's not happening right now.
Yeah, great point, by the way, Chris. Jeff Zients, so yesterday was, I believe, his first day, Ron Klain's last day on Wednesday as chief of staff. So we'll see if there's anything that changes from a messaging standpoint from the White House. But we continue to hear yesterday that Karine Jean-Pierre, she said this for a month now, that the White House is being fully cooperative. And it's like no one says, yeah, that's great. First of all, you're not being fully cooperative. You've been lying to the American people for more than 90 days now. We learned about these documents. We didn't. They knew about them on November the 2nd. It's February 2nd right now. But that doesn't mean being fully cooperative doesn't have anything to do with, Brianna, if a law was actually broken by Joe Biden here. And it seems like many laws were broken at many different locations.
Yeah, and that's why there's all this talk right now about, well, we just need to revamp the process because now Mike Pence, he had documents. I mean, it just seems like a catch-22. And the thing is, you remember when Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago was raided, he had nuclear documents, he had top secret documents. We have no idea what President Joe Biden has. Where are the leaks that we saw with President Trump for President Biden? And, you know, if it wasn't for CBS originally reporting in early January that this raid or this documents were found back in November, we still wouldn't know. So I'm kind of waiting for someone to leak to CBS now because they seem to break all this news. What kind of documents have been found?
All right, just quickly, take a look at what CBS News, they're talking about this. The rest of the media is finally talking about this, but they're buying what the White House is saying about them being cooperative and transparent. Take a look.
This really raises questions about transparency, which has been an issue involving this issue since the beginning.
We keep hearing about transparency, but then you hear stories like this, so it does raise even more questions.
Well, yeah, and why weren't the American people made aware of this before the 2022 elections? They hid that, they covered it up, and only two people could do that. Merrick Garland, who runs the DOJ, and then Joe Biden himself, the president of the United States. The order had to come from the highest levels not to let this information leak out to the American people. I'm convinced they didn't want this to ever leak out. They thought they could keep this, under wraps, and that didn't work out, which is why they've bungled this entire process for the last month. Okay, so Kevin McCarthy goes to the White House yesterday, has his first meeting with Joe Biden face-to-face as Speaker. The AP had an interesting article yesterday. Biden McCarthy once breakfast mates, friends, wrangle over U.S. debt. So this was going back to 2015 when Joe Biden was vice president. When I met him as vice president, this is Kevin McCarthy speaking, he was always eager to sit down and talk. McCarthy recalled to the Associated Press ahead of the meeting, he was always a person who would like to try and find solutions. That was McCarthy in 2015. Something, Chris, has changed 8 years later between these two lawmakers. What do you think that is?
Well, I'll tell you, Rob, just to go back for a second there to the transparency issue with the documents, if the White House truly wants to be transparent, then they should listen to Senator Mark Rubio and Senator Warner, both on the Intelligence Committee, who are asking to see these documents and to know what's in those. I think that's a very important situation.
Good point. Now to the McCarthy breakfast with Biden, Chris. These two clearly aren't getting along. Kevin McCarthy yesterday, he got out of the White House and he said, well, it went well. He said well, but you could tell that that's not what he was really feeling. Does Kevin McCarthy make the same debt ceiling mistakes that John Boehner made in 2011? He negotiated with Barack Obama behind the scenes, and many in the party felt that he, especially in the House, abandoned what they wanted.
What we're seeing right now is kind of a cat and mouse situation between McCarthy and Biden. Biden is saying, basically, show me your budget. He is trying to put the Republicans on the defensive to see if they really want to cut Social Security and Medicare. I think that's a stance that is not going to be tenable for the president. He's going to have to put out some type of budget. They said they're going to release a budget in February, or February 7th, I think it is. But yeah, this is a tenuous situation between these two.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, Chris, Brianna, stay with us. We'll see you in a little bit.